Everybody, good morning. For those of you in the UK, it is a very rainy morning. It is not what we've been accustomed to recently. Today, I am chatting to the wonderful Nikki Raby. Nikki is a business coach, a life coach. She is a TV actress, and we met, well, we'll talk about where we met actually, probably in a second when she comes on live. But we are going to be talking about something we were talking about yesterday, which is all about how to grow and live authentically, which sounds like just words. We will make it make sense, and I'm just going to let Nikki in right now. View request, and I will go live. Nikki Raby. Hang on, is it let me? Oh no, it hasn't. Hang on. Why hasn't it let you on? Just a second. Oh, you are coming on. There you are. Good morning.
Hiya.
I have my cuppa. Actually, it's a coffee with a straw.
Because you don't want to touch the makeup.
It started. The straw thing started because I wanted to keep my teeth white, and then just became a thing like years ago. And now people are like, "Why do you drink your coffee through a straw?" And I'm like,
Because I'm changing the world, kids, and I'm doing my own things. So yeah, that's why.
Exactly. Nikki, tell people. I just introduced you, but new people have sat in, so tell people who you are. I feel like it's like a dating show. Who are you, and where do you come from?
Well, hello. Hi everyone. How you doing? Oh, it's so nice to have a Friday chat. So yeah, I do lots of things like you. I'm an actor by trade, I guess, if it is a trade. I'm a personal branding coach. I'm a writer, a speaker, a podcaster. I've got 2 small kids, and you know, all the other things, like I'm a mum and a sister and a pal and a, you know, somebody who stupidly signed up to sell cakes at the school because and this is the thing, like there was the option of baking the cakes or selling them, and I was like, I could do it, but I'm not going to because I don't have time, but I do have time to sell. This school admin is another story, but anyway, that's not what we're here.
Think that I just avoid it. I've very honestly and openly set the bar very low with the school.
Good.
I'm all those that don't know, a mum as well, 2 girls, and I've set the bar low so that they assume that I won't be getting involved, and I just act dazed and confused, and it seems to have worked to me. I mean, one of them's in year 5, so we've got this far. You know, this has happened. So Nikki, for those that are sitting in now, Nikki and I met auditioning against each other, I think the first time, wouldn't it?
Like 20 years ago, like a long time ago. Like, this is not like a new Instagram, like, oh my god, she's a mum and I'm a mum as well. Like, this is a long relationship.
I can't remember what the show was, but it was probably something like Bad Girls or Footballers' Wives or something like that, wasn't it? And so for those that don't know, when you're an actor, you kind of get put into like types of, you are this type of person. And Nikki and I definitely sort of always, when we were, well, we've probably all aged a little bit now, but we always played younger than our years, didn't we? And we're, you know, Northern Oiks is kind of what we were kind of the bracket of, like, rough Northern kids was kind of our type, wasn't it, at the time? And so we would kind of meet at auditions and just be like sat in the waiting. And I guess normally you should be like competitive with each other, but like we just got on, so we were like, hey.
And that's always been like, that's why we've both worked so much, because we've always been like, do you need are you all right, you know, do you want me to read with you? Because I always work on that well, like you do as well, that abundance mindset. Like, if it's not yours, you'd rather it go to a pal, and if you can help each other out, then you know, just be a good person, don't be a wally, because it's like, that's how I want to show up, as being part of a team. So yeah, there definitely have been moments on the opposite of being in auditions. And I remember quite a famous actor, I was like, I think we were playing sisters or best friends, and I said, oh, shall we read? And she looked at me like, I don't know you and you're not famous, so I don't know if we can.
I think we should do at some point, I think people would, I mean, it's not really how we work now, but I think at some point we should do like a little actor chat of what really goes on behind the scenes, stories for days. And the strange thing was, then Nikki went on to then become a life coach. That was kind of the first step. And I remember watching Nikki, and as actors, we do this stuff because we have to not lose our minds. So we do mindset work so we can just navigate that industry. And so when I saw Nikki doing it, it didn't to me seem weird because I was doing that stuff. It was just that Nikki branched out and made it her work first.
Yeah.
So it's ended up that we're in a place where we do similar sorts of things and crossover. And one of the things I love about Nikki is that I'm talking as if like you're not here. What about you? The one thing I love about you, Nikki, is that similar to me, you've done lots of stuff and continue to do so, and haven't fallen into this story. And it is a story that you have to stick with one thing and just do that and niche down to the point of like boredom in my mind. Yeah. And you haven't done that either. So why haven't you done that? Tell us.
Because I'm very impatient, and I'm not very good at waiting for permission, because I certainly felt already when I first entered the industry that I had to wait and I had to be polite, and I was waiting for it to be my turn. Yeah. And like, because you've got ginger hair, they probably won't like you, and because you haven't got received investigation, like that's going to be out. So already I felt like I was forging this kind of like, I'll just sit nicely and wait for my turn.
Yeah.
But equally, that didn't like work well with my personality, because I was like, I'm not somebody who just sits in bed and waits for the phone to ring. So I'm going to have to find a way to do that. So that looked like me getting a job in Miss Selfridge and getting promoted 5 times in 4 months, because I was like, we need to get these clothes off the floor. Come on, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
There's shoplifting over here and like stealing a coat. Like, what is happening here?
Did you chase anyone down? Did you ever chase anyone that was a shoplifter? I feel like I could imagine you doing that.
But I did have some woman like who would obviously like cut up at the back of a coat, and she was like, it's faulty. I was like, I don't think it is. I think you've cut it. So but so many stories. But yeah, I think I very quickly was like, Steven Spielberg doesn't have my landline. That was something that kept coming back. And I was like, if I want to do this, I've got to make it happen. Like, let's stop doing this. Like, this is my dream, Simon. You know, this is my final chance. No, it isn't. And as I am on the cusp of 40, which is coming in a couple of months, I've realized there isn't one lucky break. There isn't one person. There isn't the lottery finger going, now is your turn. You can make your own luck. You can make decisions. It's like a dance. You can change. You can chop and change. And certainly having 2 kids in the last 5 years, it's given me, I mean, I'm knackered, of course, because thing of like, I'm just so blessed and like upbeat all the time. I love my kids with everything that is part of me, but I'm tired as well trying to do all the things.
They're not mutually exclusive, right?
Exactly. But when I'm looking going, I have a boy who's 5 and a girl who's nearly 2, and my boy, because he's a boy, will get paid more. I'm like, okay, ambitious, we need to just think about this. So bizarrely, even though when you become a mum or you become in your 30s, 40s, you know, basically they're sort of ushering you towards the scrap heap, I'm going, no, let's actually work on all this experience that we've had over the years and get excited again and feel
the 2 things that I just wrote down that you, because I did say to you I was going to write stuff down, because that's what I do. Write my little notes down in my corner. The 2 things I just wrote down, the first word that you said was permission. And that is so important. And so many of us, and so many of you that might be listening, are not giving yourself permission, and you're waiting for somebody else. That you just said there, you're waiting for the Simon Cowell of your world, the Steven Spielberg of your world to give you the key. They're not coming. Like, we have to do this. And as well, that, you know, that feeling of I love that there's not one lucky break. If you think about your career, and I know the same with mine as well, there's been many peaks and troughs, and it has been so messy. And that's why you and I, you know, have stories for days, because we've really tried to experience life. And I really hope that those that are listening, because I know this is a story that so many people have, that they hit a certain point. Usually it's an age thing, right? They hit a certain point in their life and they just go, well, this is me now, and this is how there's no other opportunities. And they start telling this story
I've missed the bus.
I've missed the bus. I've missed the bus. It's not happening. I'm not going to be able to do this now. It's such nonsense. There is an opportunity around every corner, but you have to stay open to that. Otherwise the door will be shut. Like if you're looking for the door, you're like, there's no doors. You're like, well, you can't fucking see the doors. You're not looking.
So many times in auditions where I'm going, wow, this is a really exciting opportunity. I'd love to play this part, or I'm like really chuffed to be in the game. So I'm in that energy. And the amount of shite that people bring into the room, like, I'm so sorry I was late. Like, where is this room? Like, I pressed the wrong buzzer, and they come in with all that madness, and they think that drama is going to be like, oh my God, they're interesting and quirky and
let me work with these people.
They're not. They're hectic. And I think, you know, my God, mental health is such an important conversation, and I know that we've spoken about our struggles with it as well. But you have to know sometimes when you just need to, like, be professional, and I'm being really careful with my words there, but sometimes I have to go, right, do I want this job? I've got to ground myself, and I've got to see if I can be in this moment and do the best that I can. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I mess it up because, you know, the voices are too loud, or any of those sorts of those limiting beliefs. But yeah, it's interesting.
It's that process. And I think as well, the thing that sparked us talking today, me and Nikki, we chat on Instagram and stuff, don't we, on WhatsApp, and periodically just update each other on what's going on in the world.
Hiya, going on.
What was that one?
I'm always like, hiya, what you doing? Are you all right? Are you all right?
Yeah, and we often have a little moan about things in a nice way, not a moan as in, like, it's always like, how can this be better? How can we make this better? Right. And we were kind of talking about growth essentially, and how, you know, what we've been saying here is right, that we should always continue to grow and learn about ourselves, and how, you know, I'm 36, so I'm not far off 40 either, and we're about to hit this new milestone. And yet Nikki and I over the last year have had even more discoveries. Now that doesn't come from us being some kind of otherworldly magic human beings. It just comes from being really inquisitive about how I can feel better, because certainly in the last year we've had another load of stuff to deal with. A global plague, there you go, have that on top of all of the other things, the mumming, the job, the money stuff, the relationship things, everything else you were already trying to navigate. How about you're isolated now, you can't say anybody, deal with that. And we've all had to deal with that on whatever level. And yet what me and Nikki have found really beneficial is actually in that time to go deeper and go, okay, at this point in my life, what's going on? Am I missing a trick anywhere? Are there things that I could be doing? And one of the things we both were saying yesterday is, I think essentially it was a sense of letting go of somebody else's story of how we should navigate it, or how it should be for us. And actually in the past I would have kind of, and I shared with Nikki yesterday that I was diagnosed with ADHD recently, and as an adult, and I thought ADHD was a naughty boys thing, you know, maybe not quite as cut and dry as that, but I didn't really know what that
meant out, and I'd have to sit on the steps outside.
Yeah, and I actually did well at school because I was actually on set because I was an actor. So it makes sense. My whole life has been a series of jumping from one thing to the next, and nobody's been watching. So essentially, no one's been keeping tabs. When I went through the sort of looking back on your life, you have to go right back to your childhood. And it was like every point in my life, there was more than one thing going on at once, always. There was always two things. And actually, in terms of ADHD, for ADHD is often a lack of dopamine as well. And some people go down the route of alcohol and drugs and finding their dopamine in more negative ways. But as an actor, there is literally, and Nikki will concur, there is no better dopamine hit than getting an acting part. There is literally there's no better, is there?
It's like a Beyonce coming up through the stage in her sparkles, like, here I am, Wembley, off I go. Even though you might be like, oh my God, I'm going to be in an advert, like holding something.
It could be like your one episode in Doctors, right? It's that one ep, and it's like
you're the back, that's all.
Yeah, but so for me, discovering that it wasn't a negative thing. I know it's attention deficit disorder makes it sound like a bad thing, but although I appreciate that there are other aspects to that have been negative for me, there are lots of good, and always reframing things. But one of the things I found really useful about actually having a diagnosis was that I could know which way to point the car. And my discoveries since then have been a lot about actually just accepting that it's okay, and I don't have to keep trying to drag my damn brain that wants to do a million things into one box because I've been following somebody on Instagram who's a business coach who does it this way, and they've niched down and they've focused and they've got in line. That is not going to work for a brain like mine. And Nikki, share what you were saying yesterday about your feeling of when you're going through the tough stuff, because I thought that was really a good thing. The physical side of things was really helpful.
Yeah, when I'm going through tough stuff, I need to move, and I've discovered about myself that I process stuff by moving. So I need to factor that into my, if I'm doing the 40-hour a week or whatever, not that I work in that way particularly, when I am factoring that in, I need to factor staring at the wall time. I need to factor like cleaning my kitchen, or having a bath, going on a walk, going on a run. And those things used to be like, things like exercise used to be, oh, you know, do this step aerobics 3 times a week because then you can have your chip butty, but don't tell anybody. All that like awful 90s thing, like, come on love, we don't need to go to that thing. That was all that stuff. And I now realize that that's what I need to do. And so no wonder if I had to sit at, I mean, if I had to sit at a desk for 8 hours a week, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I would be that annoying person wandering around the office going, what are you doing? Hiya, do you want a drink? What's like, we having lunch? What are you doing? What's going on? And so I now know that about myself, and I have to factor it in. And sometimes that's been tricky because I might go, I've only got 3 hours of childcare today. What am I doing? Wandering around the park aimlessly. But actually, when I sit down at my desk, I can just do it in a moment. And when I talk to clients on WhatsApp, I'm like, this is what's happening. Where here's the block, or like, I'm noticing this thing comes up again and again, and they're like, oh my god, that's it, that's the thing. So,
and you find that if you didn't take that time out and have your wandering time, it's almost like, I imagine when I think about my day to day, my day is like a zigzag. There isn't anything linear about it. And I mean, literally how I walk the house is like a zigzag because everything's lost. Where is everything? I'm just writing things down. And why is everything messy? And I've started the dishwasher, yet now I've realized I want to clear a bookcase out upstairs for no apparent reason. Like, it's very, very up and down. And I think in the past there was a lot of shame around that. Why can't you just get it together? Why can't you do that? Why can't you just go to the gym? Why is your house a mess? Why? And there was so much shame and internal shame around it, that even though I was doing the work, and this is, I mean, I'm talking up until the last year, there was especially in the last year, because then there's a global pandemic and I'm on my own as a mom with 2 kids, locked in the house, trying to do, initially doing very well because, kicking into place, let's do this, schedule, doing my lives, doing stuff, showing up, loving it, kind of adrenaline, a bit of dopamine there, chucked into the mix, bit exciting. But third lockdown down, there's just, why is my house, I'm so tired. Why is my house a mess? Why can't I just get that motivation that the motivation that we're constantly chasing? And I think being able to see that in ourselves and noticing that it's all just the permission, it goes back to that permission and understanding that, okay, so you heard one person's version of what could make you feel happy or make your business a success or make your life a success is one way, and you saw it and it just didn't fit. There might just be a reason why it doesn't fit. Maybe you just don't work that way. And listening to yourself and going, just like Nikki's just said, I need to have half an hour's work, but then I need to get out the house for half an hour. That's better for me. It's okay. That's what you need.
Yeah, and there's a thing that we mentioned earlier about growth and healing and realizing and understanding yourself. People talk about that on the internet like it's some kind of rising goddess moment where they come out through the water, that it's glossy, it's shiny, And I was saying this in an interview the other day. I look like that person on the Alton Towers picture where people go, "Oh my God, have you seen that woman's not going to buy that photo. Have you seen this? Oh my God." Oh, where people have that. Yeah. That's what my healing feels like. It feels uncomfortable. It feels sicky. It feels grim and gross and all of things. I also had a client the other day who was struggling with one particular point in her business, and she used to be a teacher, and I said, but usually in June you're winding down, we're in the final half term. So I was like, this is really good data to understand, because then you might need to structure your year differently. So there's so many things that are going on. And also this thing about working around your children. I work around my children because I have children, but I don't work when they're in the room, because that doesn't work for my brain. I can't, and I just end up putting them in front of the TV. That's not brilliant parenting for me personally either. So my life needs to be much more separate in that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think often, you know, you're right, when it comes to having children in a business or working and children, it is much more challenging, and we don't always see that reflected in an honest way. You know, I'm very, very lucky that I now have my garden office here, and I'm able to I do my commute from the house and make a big deal out of it. And but it still doesn't necessarily always work for the children. If they're in the house and I have to come and be in here for a minute to do something or whatever, I will often have them dancing at the thing in front of me, trying to get my attention. You know,
like, no, I did see you.
Honestly, I do BBC Radio every Monday, and they know it, but because it's been regular, they've lost the kind of respect of what that means. So now they're like, "Mom, can I have some sweets?" when I'm on the radio, and I'm like, and honestly, my brain doesn't flow. Like, if you get me out of what's happening by distracting me, I've forgotten what I'm talking about now. That is so so working around your kids, it doesn't look pretty. And this growth that we're talking about, it's, as Nick said, it's messy. And I know we have the kind of extremes on social media where you have people that post pictures of their sad, teary face, right? No judgment on that. I get why people do it. Yeah. But equally, there is part of me that's going, like, I think there's a middle area of that, because when somebody's got the foresight to take a photograph during that time, it might be, but it might not be their worst times. It might not be, because it's still a kind of curated version of what it looks like, you know. And again, no judgment, because I'm, you know, you and I are both very, you know, we're actors, so we probably have taken photos of our tears in times, because that's what actors do. Yeah. But I've got
to do it on this line.
Yeah, like I get that, but I also and I get the need when people show those things, because it's also an element of reaching out, and so there's no judgment in what I'm saying here, but what I'm saying is there's a middle ground to that. There's the bit when you shout at your kids too much because you feel bad, and then and you do something wrong, and it's messy, and you know something's going on for you, and you do something wrong, you shout at your partner or your friend, or you do you cry into your pillow about the fact you forgot to get milk. Like there's the messy middle ground that we don't necessarily see on social media, because we either see perfectly curated, or we see quite extremes where we're like, oh, I wouldn't be doing that either. And we don't see this bit in the middle, which is most of our life. Like, most of us experience some days of joy and happiness, or some moments, and then some parts of the day where we're like, why am I just an asshole today? Like, why who is this?
Yeah. And as you grow as well, it's almost like creating what those new boundaries are like. And so sometimes that's awkward conversations with somebody of, you know, I had to have it recently with somebody very close in my life, where I had to say, please don't say that, because when you say that, even though you think it's funny, it really hurts me. And there are so many other things that you could have said in that moment, and you chose to say that, and that undermined. And yeah, I mean, I went for it in a very calm. I was like, it really undermines what I'm trying to do, and it's not true. That was I think that was the ragey thing. I was like, it's not true. So why are we doing this silliness? And also as well, sometimes as you're going through a moment, people are readjusting around you, going, oh, well, I thought this was okay. Now oh gosh, I'm not quite sure. Or you trigger something else in somebody else. yeah, it's really tricky. It's really tricky to
But
navigate.
you know, as we're talking about this growth, boundaries are absolutely essential to your growth, because you learn something new about yourself, and then you understand, actually this is what I need. And you know, even as a parent as well, you know, I'm navigating this with my children at the moment, in that when I'm in, and this is for all of us as parents, we sometimes want to time out our children when actually it's us that needs the time out.
Yeah.
Probably more than our children.
Or
Yeah, we've been trying to put in place, like, I need time out sometimes, where I can't process what you're saying if everybody's screaming. I can't concentrate. I'm going to have like a sensory overload, and I'm not going to be my best self. So we've been putting new boundaries, which are at the moment not always working well, because they want to be around me, because if they see me stressed out, they want to be around me because it feels unnerving. So when I'm asking for 5 minutes, girls, to step out, that's a new boundary. And that could be, I mean, I'm talking about kids, but it could be for your friends, for your family. This is where I'm at right now. I do it in this way now. And that initial stage when you're going through this, and Nikki will know this as well, that any client that I work with, when they're going through that initial stage of growth and learning, there's always pushback from around them, because, and it's not because the people around them are bad people or you should cut them out your life. It's because they're not used to this version. They're not quite themselves. They don't know how to this new version. Now that doesn't mean they won't adjust. You've got to teach them. And in fact, I was talking to my daughter about this. So I was saying to Nikki actually that sometimes when I'm talking to people, especially when it's something I care and I'm interested in, I will get a pen and paper and I just write words down to remind myself. One, it stops me always interrupting, and because I want to say something and share something because I'm excited, but it also, I can remember what I'm going to be saying, and it helps me to concentrate on what they're saying. However, if you are talking to me and I'm jotting a note down, that might look like I'm disinterested. It's actually quite the opposite is true. I'm really interested, so I want to focus on what you're saying. And sometimes when my brain's a bit, or you know, ADHD, if that's a word, I need to do that to focus on what you're saying because I care. Now, I was explaining to my oldest daughter that you can use that as a tool. You know, if you're a person that when they're learning and the teacher's talking, you can write some notes down. However, and this is the caveat I was saying to her, is if you don't educate those around you, they will see that as rudeness and disinterested. Now, you're not being disinterested, but it's not their job to work that out. That's for you to explain, this is how I work. It's not they don't have to understand it. It isn't actually their business to understand it. And when you do the work on yourself and you grow and you learn something new, and it could be absolutely life-changing, that doesn't mean everybody else has to agree, understand it, or change to fit what you need.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to touch on that point that came up about feeling like a failure. Oh my goodness, it's so, I think we're set up to feel like failures, you know, because I think we're just judged from such an early age of being like, you're this, or this is the camp that you're in. And I'm sure she would absolutely hate me saying it, so I'll keep the story brief. But my mum started running recently, and it's so brilliant that she did that Couch to 5K. And, you know, 40, so you can work out what sort of age that she is. And you know, she's found it as a skill. She's learned it as a skill. And she just said, oh, I just didn't think that I was a runner. She said, I wanted to be, but I was clever at school, so you couldn't be both. And this is an interesting thing as well, is that we're now suddenly giving ourselves permission to have a pick and mix life, not only in our careers in terms of portfolio, personal brand, but to like everything from what you wear. I got a bit sassy on a YouTube video last night because a deodorant brand that I was going to purchase from, as part of their new advert, they're dissing 40-year-olds who dance. And I was just like, mate, I've got money to spend and I almost bought one of your deodorants, and this feels a bit weird. And it felt really, for a very up and coming company, it felt very weird, because I was like, oh, am I not allowed to dance now because I'm, you know, some 90-year-old has said that is not okay. And yeah, so I think this pick and mix of really listening to what is going on for you, what you like, how you work best. my God, because once you get to that point where you're like, oh, I've got this ease and flow, it feels really good. Oh, it's
Good. And I think that comes with age a bit, but I think only if you're doing the work. It's not a given. It's only if, and I was talking about this the other day actually. So when I say the work, I mean as in work on your mindset. It sounds such a wishy-washy thing to say, but I mean like actually working and learning how you do things. The things that we're talking about is the work, is what I mean, and not stagnating and just going, this is me now. Because there's always, just like Nikki's mom, there's always new discoveries that, and I always think. And often when people will come to Nikki and I, it'll be at a time of transition where they feel that something has to change, whatever the reason, whether it's a special birthday that's happened, or something that's rocked their life in some way. Just this feeling, you know, a pandemic has done it. But just this feeling of like, I'm at a crossroads in my life and I don't know why I feel this unrest. And that's why when Nikki and I work with people, it'll be at those moments in their lives. And if you continue to question and learn to understand yourself, that ease and that ebb and flow, that ease that Nikki's talking about there, it's such, I feel like it's a weight off your shoulders. Yeah. And it's just such a nice space. And I do think you get there a little bit as you get older. You know, you let go of giving a shit about stuff like, do I look stupid when I go running, or am I? You just kind of go, so what?
Hey.
I just don't. You just kind of care less, don't you? And I think that's a really good space. And I really encourage those that are listening today to just ask yourself at this point in your life, who are you? And what do you want at this point? Because it's not the same as it was 10 years ago. You know, all the stuff that's happened in all of our lives in the last 10 years, and it is many and plentiful, right? That all of that stuff has shifted us and changed us. You know, for those that don't know this, my husband Ross died nearly 4 years ago, actually, which is so weird. And Ross meeting me now would be meeting a different version of me, because the person that meets me now is meeting somebody that went through the death of my husband. That changes you. And I know that's a big thing, but let's say it's a job loss or a relationship breakup or a global pandemic. There are things that shift something in you where you go, there's bigger things. There's more. It's, you know, I know we hear this sort of analogy of peeling the onion and the layers, but I really do think that happens. I think there's almost, I've felt in the last 4 years particularly, that there's been this space of, I'm gonna take off a bit of the mask, because I don't need to wear it and it's not helping me. My mask was always be the loudest, the most confident, the one with the makeup on, you know, make sure you control all of the aspects of the outside, because then when you show up, you'll be the alpha in the room and you'll be confident, and it'll be like, that was my mask. And actually particularly over the last 3 or 4 years, I've stripped that back and went, why though? Why do I need that? What? I'm not saying it's wrong, because I still love makeup and I'll still be the chatty one and the confident one, but can I be more vulnerable than that? Can I say I'm flawed and I don't get this right, and show up in a way? And even on live streams and things, you know, I used to be bothered by the way my brain would jump from one thought to the next. And I used to really very much like, not scripts, because I never scripted, but I used to very much structure a live stream, because I knew that my brain would think of something else and I'd run amok. Whereas certainly during the pandemic, anybody that has watched me over the last year has been very much party to me just going, oh, whatever. If it goes completely somewhere else, then it does. And it's a nice feeling, right?
Yeah. And you know what, when you were talking about that transition moment, that transition and noticing what is actually happening in the conversation of like, oh my God, I thought that I love my husband and now I don't. Or I thought this was me set, or I thought I would be this kind of mother, whatever it might be. As business owners, we cannot talk about the formula of getting 10 people on a whiteboard. I've got 3 more spots. I've got whatever. We can't show that kind of thing. We have to talk to people as human beings and take people where they are, because the amount of times people will have a first session with me and they go, I've never told anyone that before. And I go, you've never told anybody? And people think that, like, when they start working, that, almost like they're having an affair in the spare room, or they're watching porn or something. And it's like, no, I'm working on myself and my life and, you know, who I want to be. But you sharing your story in a way that feels good, because I'm sure that you don't share everything, even though you're authentic online, that you have to have that self-preservation as well of what of your stuff. And I think when we're talking about being authentic and having a personal brand online, you have to set what, you know, even if people come round to your house, you can come in the living room and the kitchen, but that's when it's a weird on come dine with me when somebody's in the pant drawer and I'm like, oh no, I just invited you for spag bowl, that was it. Like, this really weird now that you're going through my letters from school. Another limited thing I was going to say is something came up for me the other day. I was really grappling with an obstacle, with a limiting belief, and that, like, I don't know, gnarly voice. And then I had to go, right, Raby, because it's weird when you talk to yourself like that. I was like, what is this? Who where did this come from? Who said that? This limiting belief was 31 years old. 31 years old.
It just been swimming out there. It just been swimming in your subconscious.
It's like an old, like, plastic wrapper when you're in the sea, and you're just like, what is that? Get rid of it. And I had to have a sassy word with myself, like, this is not useful.
Important. And you know, just what you said there, thank you for the lovely comments. I am sort of seeing them, but they're just going quick and I can't, but thank you. A couple of people just said that they enjoyed my lives during the pandemic, and we're happy that my brain was all over, so that's good, you see. And I do genuinely mean that when you show up for yourself in that way and you just let go of the pressures that we put on ourselves to show up in a perfect way, whatever the fuck that means, when we let go of that, it just feels easier and you attract the right people to you. You know, I remember years ago, well, not years and years ago, but a few years back, I was touring the Happy Me project, and I was in Newcastle, and it was one of the earlier ones that I'd done. And my mum said to me, because she had done some kind of workshops and stuff in the past, and she said, you need to have water bottles for everybody. And I was like, I haven't got water bottles. And she was like, well, like, really judgy about it, right? And I was like, listen, people don't come to me for me to dish them out water. And I, just like I mentioned at the very beginning of this live about setting the bar low at the school, and this is not about setting the bar low, it's about being honest about my flaws and my mistakes and just what I care more about. And so I know that when people came to my workshop, they didn't go, oh, she didn't bring water. Because
people you attract are self-sufficient and go, God, I'm going to get really thirsty in that hot room. I'm going to make sure I've got
that's kind of like, listen, they're there for 4 hours. Like, they'll bring their water, bring us, you know, this is, I'm not here to wipe your ass for you. Bring your water bottle. And because I say that, and because I
branded content, like when people want to put your stuff on, it's like, oh no, I don't actually need a key. Like, please don't spend your money on branding me a key ring or something, because like, it's just not. It's words. I don't need them on a key ring.
And I think it's that story. I've also, you know, in the past, I wrote down some things on my whiteboard actually, because I knew I was going to forget this, but I was thinking about things that we get told, like just all stuff that we get told as business owners or as moms or as people, as women, as men, as human beings, that just doesn't serve us. And I was thinking of some of the things that have been told to me that I've ignored and actually have benefited me. And one of them, and it's such an immature, stupid thing, but my swearing, people have told me to stop swearing, right, over the years in various different spaces. And in fact, recently I was talking to a company I was doing some stuff with, and we were looking at structuring some things and looking at my social media, and it was all about, you know, how do you work with big brands and what they would like to see. And they went through my social media, my grid, and they were like, you know, the swearing, it's, you know, that's not appealing to brands. They don't want to see people swearing. And then and this is like, I'm like wanting to just die laughing. They're scrolling through my feed and they're saying, because you have put, you know, it says bullshit there and it says motherfucker there. And I was like, and
like that one was my favorite. Like the way that I use bullshit there, like it was so good.
And I know that swear, I mean, I talk about this a lot because it gets brought up with me a lot. And I know it's such an immature, nothing thing, but actually, I use it as a barometer of whether this is my room. If I walk into a room and say fuck and that room recoils, it's not my room. It's okay. I'm not judging. If my swearing, in fact, a lovely lady, and I forget her name now, I want to say it's Anita, but I might be wrong. On my Facebook, about 5 years ago, somebody commented, you would be better if you didn't swear, or something like that. And I don't get that a lot because my audience just goes with it and they know they do it in the comfort of their own home, even if they don't do it in public, and that's fine. And she commented, and I must have just joked with her back. Now, I noticed that that lady, I'm sure it's Anita, has stayed with me for 5 years. And she mentioned it not long ago. I was that person that told you to start swearing. And she obviously laughs about it now and probably has shifted and changed and grown and recognized it's not the important thing here. Like, it's not what's important. And I think I used to get told a lot, you know, that things like I don't look like a businesswoman. I don't, you know, all of those. And I'm sure you've had exactly the same. That's not what a businesswoman looks like. They have
more than one thing. People go, gosh, you're so confusing. Oof, I just don't know what to do with you. And it's like, you don't have to do anything with me actually, because I'm really comfortable in who I am and what I'm doing and how I'm making things easy. Because I know that we've joked a lot about, like, I never want to just feel like I'm looking forward to a bank holiday, like to go sofa shopping. Like if I get myself in a situation where I'm dreading Mondays and I'm looking forward to a Wednesday because I get to have a special biscuit, I'm sorry, like there's just more to life. And if I want to have a special biscuit, I might have it on a Monday morning, you know.
After this, I can't promise that one.
Now thinking of special biscuit. Yeah, it's just, oh gosh, there's so much to say, because it's just, now is the time, basically, if people are waiting for that perfect time. So I would you, like, when we talk about mindset, working on yourself, what's the first step that you would recommend for somebody?
So my first step would be, well, firstly, recognizing that you are at a transition. So if you're on, you may well be, if you follow me, you follow Nikki, you may well have been watching in the background for a bit and going, oh, this seems, I feel like I don't feel quite right, but you know, it sometimes feels like a big jump, in which case I would look at what are the avenues you can, and it might just be the avenues for you might be coming on live like this at first, and getting out. I'm a big fan of the pen and paper, getting out your pen and paper and just writing down, who am I in this moment? What words come up for you? What we talk a lot about values, and I really go back to values a lot because values are so important. In values to me, and I've explained this before on live, but values are the ingredients that you need to feel happy. So over the last year, if you felt lots of unrest, there's probably ingredients you've been missing, maybe connection to other human beings, maybe adventure, spontaneity has been a big one for me, that I didn't really recognize how important spontaneity is for me, to be able to just go out and go and do something. These values, once you know what they are, you can have a much great, and at this point in your life, by the way, you'll have even if you've ever done this exercise before, do it again, because you might need to revisit this. So I think starting at going, if there was a big soup and I was making this is my life soup, or
I love the analogy. Come on. Yeah, great.
Right? What's the seasoning? These are the ingredients that we need in our big life stew for it to taste good. Because if you missed out the salt and you really need salt in your stew, the stew's going to take, this is going too far with this metaphor now, but your life's not going to feel right. And every time, you know, and Nikki, you'll know this well, when you sit down and you do a values exercise with a client, you work out, who are you, what do you want, you know, what's the ingredients, what do you need? Often they haven't recognized what it is that they need, because we don't ask ourselves. Often we just go down a route. We've never asked, we never realized we had a choice. We just thought we had to go and do that job and do that thing and marry that person and get in line. We thought we had to do that. So we've never asked. And then the next thing is, then they go, okay, well, I just don't know how to get that in my life. I don't know. They don't give themselves permission, going back to the permission to go, what's really, so my top value is freedom. And it goes back to everything that we say. I need to feel free. As soon as you cage me, as soon as I feel that there's a rule in place that somebody else, I want to kick out.
Brittany, she's just like, come on, like Unleashed is the pop star once again.
Absolutely. So that would be my first point, would be recognizing that you actually are in a transition and something can be done. Then get your pen and paper out, look at what it is that you, and you don't have to have the map, you don't have to have the full idea of how you get there or anything like that, but just tuning in and going, okay, what is it I need in my life? What do I need more of, and what am I missing and lacking?
Yeah.
What would be yours, Nikki?
I've got like a third step to that, which is turn up the brightness. And I talk about this dial all the time. And sometimes it's like turning up the noise, and then you have to turn it down. But feeling like you can be some kind of wizard, like operating the room. No, I don't necessarily mean that. But sometimes you have to turn up the brightness on something so it actually hurts your eyes. And you have that moment where you're like, all right, I need to look at this. This is coming up again and again and again. I've got to turn the point where you almost reach that point where you have a big ugly cry and you slide down your kitchen cupboards and lay on the floor and you go, I mean, I've had so many of those over the years, but something good comes from the other side, because you have to almost let it out. And I always end up on the floor for some reason. So I get to that point where I actually physically, again, going back to that processing thing, I have to physically get up, move, like, all right, brush yourself down. Take care of yourself. What is going on? Check in.
What do you need?
And what do you need? And going back to how we would, if you have children or children in your life, it's going back to those gentle toddler needs that you have of like, how can I make this better for you? I do it with my kids all the time. Do you need a bit of telly time? Do you need should we have a cuddle? Do you want to go to the park tomorrow? Should we go to a new park tomorrow? It's all those things of just taking care of yourself, but allowing yourself to turn up that brightness, because when you do, sometimes you go, oh my god, nothing is what I ever thought it was going to be, and now this feels overwhelming. Because also in this, as a sort of on the flip side, we see transformations all the time, the clickbaity, like I was homeless and now I have a 7-figure business. I in my kitchen making over, and I phoned a TV company and they've made it over in 60 minutes. Like sometimes it takes me 60 minutes to make my lunch. Like it's just like, what?
You're so right, that don't we? So much. And it gives us this impression that it's an overnight thing, and I say this a lot, but the overnight successes, it just rarely happens. Even the ones that you see on X Factor and all of those programs, those people have often been grafting for years in the background.
They have, of course they have. And I know that suddenly if I got, I don't know, a job on The Crown, they're like, oh my god, she's an unknown, where's she come from? I was like, well, kind of. Also, like I'm doing this for 36 years, so
trying to be an overnight success. And that's whatever we do, like whether everybody's needs and everybody's barometers of success are so different. And so when we're talking about big stuff, or you hear people talking about 6-figure incomes and all of that, for me personally, that noise of 6-figure income doesn't do anything for me at all. I'm shit at maths. I don't even know what that equates to. Like I don't, and in my head I'm like, well, I don't know what that means every day. I need to break everything down into its smallest component part, stomach it and go, oh, okay, so that means literally it would be better for me if somebody said, that's 10 packets of biscuits for this. Right. Like I need to know it in and actually that's a better way of looking at that kind of stuff when it comes to monetary stuff, because often people just spout out numbers. And when you go, so why do you want that? I don't know. Why? What do you want it for? What does it mean? So you'll never get it because it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything, does it?
Totally. And I had that when just before I had my daughter, when I was working out figures and things like that. Like I accepted a job and something that I did, and I went, brilliant. That will pay my bills for the month, and I won't have to worry about it. So when she was, whatever month it was after she was born, I was like, great, that will pay for that. So sometimes that like jazzy, you know, first class travel, all of that kind of internet stuff. I mean, the thought of taking two small children on a first class travel at this stage is not appealing in any shape. I mean, I'd go to Bali first class just for a bit of quiet time, to be honest. It might be like 10 grand you ever spend. Like, I had a lovely sleep, some really nice food. I watched 4 box sets. But I think it is that as well. Sometimes feeding your family, not having to worry about money, being able to take the afternoon off so you can take your kids somewhere. You know, I took my son to the opticians the other day because they're not doing eye tests at school, and I was so happy that I could have that 2 hours, because I sensed he was actually absolutely fine. I thought he might be nervous. So I made it into this whole I was so irritating, I'm sure, in the opticians. I was like, look at these glasses. They're so fantastic. What's that machine doing? Oh, wow. And I was just like, oh, God, I need to calm down. But I'm glad that I had that time, because those things, that was important.
That's why you're making the money. And I think that's really important for people to recognize, because it's so easy to get kind of distracted by the glossiness of online chat of all of that stuff, and especially if you're creating a business. I know there'll be some people that are watching. I know I can see who else have we got on? I think somebody was on before as well, that was business owners are on. And when you're looking at other people, it's so easy to get caught up in that and forget that, how does that equate to your actual life? And all of us can. I mean, I'm not a person that actually, things like designer stuff and so, that doesn't appeal to me. I don't care. I wouldn't know the difference if you were wearing a knockoff, so just wear the knock. I don't care. Like, I don't know enough about it. I like nice things. It's not that I don't like nice things, but it's not high in my priorities for me. No judgment if it is to anybody that's watching, because you might love that and that might be a high priority too, but it's not for me. However, what is a high priority, as I said, freedom's my highest value, is the stuff that you've just said. I want to pick the kids up from school. I want to be able to have the afternoon off and it not, oh, it was Alicia. Yes, I thought it was you, Alicia. Just saying that, the little owl shop as well, doing her business. And you know, those things are more important to me and more tangible and more real, and will make me want to to be better. Just see holistic. Emma says pyramid schemes are my biggest weakness. I see girls in their Range Rovers and I did a network marketing business for a while, and definitely got caught up in following what other people were doing and thinking that might be the route, and it's so much nonsense. And I think we're actually seeing a lot more clarity with that kind of stuff. And again, no judgment on anybody in network marketing. There are some people that do very nicely out of it, but there's a definite monkey see, monkey do mentality where that's the only version of success. Success looks like a Range Rover. Success looks like first class. It's not true. Success can look like a safe home. That can be success for many people, and it is success. Success can look like food in the fridge and no worry about food in the fridge. Water coming out of the tap. Like, I know this is a funny thing to think, but considering I have always grown up with water in my house and food in the fridge, you know, I always, every time I get a glass of water, I genuinely think, wow, like, we could just get water at the tap. I don't know why it sticks in my, but I just think about it more than I probably should. But I just think that's so lucky. Like, we can get clean water. Like, imagine how shit it would be if you couldn't. And during the pandemic as well, it was such a clarity defining thing for me that when, especially the beginning, when we had no answers and it was all really scary, and we had to come inside. And I've got a nice house, and I've shared on here before, I bought myself a hot tub, a jacuzzi hot tub, right? That was my splashing out when I bought this house. I got a hot tub built in, and it was probably the first time I'd ever bought something that extravagant. It was an expensive one and everything, and it has Bluetooth and it's got lights on it and that, like the working class, right? And when the pandemic hit, I remember just looking at my house, a safe house with food in the fridge, and I remember thinking, do you know what doesn't matter when you can't get food because the shops are closed or you can't get toilet roll and all of that? Do you know what doesn't matter? A hot tub and the telly and the stuff, the clothes in the wardrobe, because you can't eat them. I just remember thinking, I can't eat the hot tub. So,
and I remember emailing our head teacher when lockdown first hit in, and I said, and I was very careful to kind of make sure I was saying this in the right way, because again, there's that sort of pressure of like being an interfering person or being a busybody. But I said, children who get free school meals, is there some sort of system in place that those children are protected? Because that's a very thing in the school that everywhere. And having that, like, what do we do? How do we make this? And there's so much. I'm really aware we're going to get kicked off if we don't.
So
Instagram is going to go, enough. No. I love all these things, paying the bills, and
having a bit of extra money towards Christmas is why I do. You know, like, that is perfect. That's a reason. Right. That's the thing that will get you up, because you'll think that would feel so good, and it will when you do that. And please do keep, you know, when people are telling us our stories on here, I'm sorry we haven't got the chance to really see everybody's. It's kind of short when you're on a double live stream. It's kind of hard to see it, so sorry if I've missed anybody's. I will have a look afterwards, and I'm sure Nikki will as well. Please make sure that you follow Nikki and what she does. Nikki, where can everybody find you apart from following you on here?
Just here. My website's a right tip at the moment, so I'm not
a bit messy.
I've got to do a few bits on it. So, but yeah, here is a really lovely thing. I've also got a podcast, which is not a tip, and it's on iTunes. Awesome. It's called Dreaming and Doing. There is 400 episodes on there plus, so there's so much kind of stuff if you want to get stuck into. And I love it when new people discover it, because they're like, oh my god, there's loads of things and I know that person from Instagram and I want to hear what they've said. So yeah, but I've loved it. Thank you. Let's do more if anybody wants more.
Let us know. Want us to do more, because me and Nikki we should do one about the acting industry at some point, because I think that'd be quite funny for everybody to hear what really goes on and all of the horror stuff we've probably got, and the good stuff as well. But we will definitely again. And for those that don't know, I also have a podcast as well. It's a baby podcast. It's definitely not anywhere near 400. I think I've done about 20 odd episodes now, which is quite quick. That is the Happy Me Project. And again, if you're coming in from elsewhere, follow me on here, and all of my stuff is in the bio.
And this live, like, if somebody likes it, like, tag us in it and we'll share your stuff as well. So yeah, brilliant.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, everybody, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye.
Bye.